Hello and welcome yet again to the Justice for All podcast with myself, Glenn, and Amy's here as well.
Hi.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. We've got someone else here, Amy.
I know. We've got an infiltrator.
Yeah, an interloper. Someone who's... One of these things is not like the other and all that kind of thing. It is. Well, he hasn't been podcasting for a long time. You may know him as one half or the erstwhile half of the Moonbase 2 podcast from back in the day. Big, massive DC fan, though. It's the clues in his name. It is Kal-El Prime, Mr. David Wallace.
Hello, everybody. Good to be here.
How are you?
I'm not too bad. You're absolutely right. It has been a long, long time since the podcast. In fact, I think the last time I did a podcast... And I could be wrong about this, and I probably am, because I'm probably forgetting somebody. But I think the last time I did a podcast, you and I were talking about DC movies. So that's at least 3 or 4 years ago.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And it must be nearly 6 or 7 years since you'd been doing Moonbase 2?
Over 10?
Blimey.
Yeah. It was...
Well, no, over 10 since you left, I mean.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, probably around that. Yeah. I mean, there's only so much of Andy Millman you can take before it becomes you or him. And
this is true. I don't know how Mike puts up with him. Seriously, just winds me up.
Yeah.
Just Millman. Love you, Andy. Love you. But yeah, like I say, well, yeah, definitely over 10 years ago, because it was like 2008. I think you guys started Moonbase 2, wasn't it? Something like that?
Yeah, it would have been about that. 2007, 2008. Yeah, 2008. Yeah, so 10 years this year.
We're so old.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
We're all so old, but there we go. But yeah, Dave and Amy are here, so we're going to be talking about some DC stuff. And I think we intimated in the last podcast that we're actually going to be talking about the 1997 Joel Schumacher joint, Batman and Robin. I don't know whether people are happy or sad about that, but
a nice mix of the two, probably.
Well, exactly. I was going to say, full disclosure, I actually quite like Batman and Robin. So, I'm a bad DC fan. But to give you some very quick context before we go into a bit of a conversation about it, Joel Schumacher was brought on board in 1995 to make the third Batman film, Batman Forever, because Warner Brothers weren't really happy with what Tim Burton had done for Batman Returns, which is basically make a German expressionist film from 1925 in 1992. The reason they weren't happy about it is pretty much threefold. Number one, they couldn't sell toys off the back of it. Number two, they couldn't sell merch off the back of it. And number three, a lot of parents groups had complained because it's do you know what? It's a dark movie, but I wouldn't consider it too dark for kids. Not really.
Batman Returns?
Yeah.
You don't think it was dark for kids?
Not really. Maybe I'm just judging it on British kids.
I think it depends on the kid.
I saw a lot worse shit in the 80s on children's BBC than Batman Returns.
I suppose we were being marketed Alien and Predator toys, I suppose, at the time. So
and Robocop.
And Robocop, yeah. So I guess from a... Yeah, I suppose you can't hold Batman and Batman Returns up to some high horror standard, I suppose.
Plus, as a kid raised on things like sort of early 80s to mid 80s Doctor Who and things like Day of the Triffids and the Tripods, etc., it wasn't really that bad. But then again, I was 16, so I don't know.
See,
maybe kids were pussies in 1992.
See, I think because I was quite young when it came out, I think it's less the tone and it being a bit sort of darker and scary for kids. I think it's a bit more grown up and boring for kids. It's a slower movie. There's not as much Batman in your face and stuff. It's kind of like, you know, as much as people love The Dark Knight from the last trilogy that came out, I wouldn't say that's a good film for kids purely because I think a kid would sit there and get bored for it. You know, it's that kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, and I've always said this, is that the original Tim Burton Batman movie, the 89 Batman movie, is a great Batman movie. Mm-hmm. Batman Returns is a Tim Burton movie.
Oh yeah, it's a Tim Burton film about the Penguin.
Yeah, much more than a Batman film.
Batman's a secondary player in his own movie in Batman Returns, which again was one of the problems that Warner's had with it, and why Joel Schumacher was put on board and Tim Burton was basically encouraged not to do. He wasn't fired. He was producer, executive producer on Batman Forever, but he was encouraged not to do it, basically, with the lure of doing Superman movies. Oddly enough, that never happened. But see Kevin Smith's involvement on that one. He wants a big spider. It's a big fucking spider. But anyway, Batman Forever was very, very successful. Made a crap load of money. You couldn't go anywhere in 1995 without seeing neon question marks. They were everywhere, especially that question mark with the bat symbol in it. I know this because I had a T-shirt and a cap with it on. So you couldn't move. Critically, it wasn't panned. It did okay critically. Made a buttload of money, sold loads of merch and loads of toys as well. So Warner's, in the true tradition of movie companies getting bloody greedy, said, right, Joel, we want another one. We want it in 2 years. In 2 years. Not the usual 3 or 4 that it takes to make a movie. And we want it marketed to the nines, and we're bringing Kenner Toys on board to co-design some of the vehicles, as in all the vehicles and all the costumes. And we want basically the same movie as before, but with different characters. And even more family-friendly than the last one was.
I suppose it's worth mentioning, though, really, isn't it, when the conversation about Batman Forever gets brought up, is the fact that, for all of the recent talk that's gone on over the last few years about fan edits, especially around Justice League and things like that. It's like Batman Forever was that one of the first comic book movies to really suffer at the editorial hand, because again, even though Joel Schumacher was brought on board and Batman Forever and Batman and Robin are seen as much more light-hearted affairs compared to the Tim Burton movies, Batman Forever was a lot darker than it was supposed to be. It was to this day, I still believe that if they'd left the stuff in there about the whole the diary and all of that, I would probably keep that up there as like one of my all-time favorite Batman stories. It's got a hell of a twist to it, which they just ripped out for the sake of making it light and friendly for the kids. But it is not a light movie. Yes, there's a lot of neon in it, but it's very dark. So it's kind of weird because even Joel Schumacher admits that he crapped the bed with Batman and Robin. But I maintain that he's probably not entirely to blame, because Batman Forever is Batman Forever is a good test case to prove that the studio had a heavy hand in what would be Batman and Robin.
What did they cut out of Batman Forever? Because I've not heard of anything about a diary plot.
Let me tell you this one.
It is worth it, honestly.
How Amy, obviously, I know I've listened to a couple of the podcasts and stuff like that, but imagine this, right? So the through plot line for Batman Forever is that he keeps having visions, yeah?
Yeah, his parents' funeral in the book.
Exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even the scene left in it where you see him running into the forests around Wayne Manor, and he falls, and that's where he finds the Batcave and things like that.
Which they lifted wholesale and put into Batman Begins.
Yes, yeah. And that's it. That's really the end of it. Now, what actually happens, and this scene exists in the deleted scenes, and I would highly recommend tracking down the special editions on Blu-ray, because it's got all the special features and it's got the deleted scenes in. After he quits being Batman, Riddler and Two-Face break in, steal Chase, shoot Bruce in the head, and obviously at that point he's given up being Batman. But while he's unconscious, he sort of sleepwalks into the Batcave, And it turns out there's a secret area in the Batcave that he's completely forgotten about. And he goes into it, and in there is the diary. And he opens the diary, and again, one of the best twists on the Batman story ever. He looks at the last diary entry of his dad, and it says, "Martha and I want to stay in tonight, but Bruce is obsessed with going to see this movie."
Oh.
And you're just like, what?
Oh,
brilliant.
That's cold.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then there's a whole thing with a giant, massive bat that shows up.
But you do see that because obviously when Riddler's looking up at Batman when we'd gone completely insane at the end, that's what you do see, the puppet massive animatronic bat that they made.
Yeah.
What kills me is that they made this animatronic bat, which is fantastic if you look at the pictures of it, and it gets pretty much cut out of the movie. Okay for the person who made the bat, really, because he got paid for it anyway.
Yeah.
But still, it deserved to be seen, did this thing, because it was awesome. But one thing you have to know about Joel Schumacher is that he, at the time, was a massive Batman fan. I'm not sure about how big of a Batman fan he is today, but he was also a massive fan of Batman Year One, and that's the film he really wanted to make. And Warner just basically kept screwing him over, basically. It's not like he doesn't have form with making serious or semi-serious films about this sort of thing, because obviously he did The Lost Boys, he did Falling Down, he did Phone Booth, so the man can make serious and good movies. But he did all the John Grisham ones as well, all the John Grisham adaptations. That's all Joel Schumacher. So it's a shame that it all got cut out, but I do recommend watching anything on YouTube you can find of the special editions and things like that. It is awesome, and it would have made it a completely different movie. And ironically, the movie that Joel Schumacher wanted to make. It's just that at that point he buckled under the studio demands, because back then they had a hell of a lot more power than they do now. And certainly come Batman and Robin, it's weird because they came to him in the second film with a list of demands. Usually that's sort of the sort of thing they do in the first movie that someone does. But Batman and Robin, it was work with Kenner, make it more family friendly. McDonald's want a tie-in with Happy Meals, set pieces, and so on and so forth. One of the things he didn't actually buckle under was they wanted Patrick Stewart as Mr. Freeze, and Joel Schumacher turned that down. He said he wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger because he wanted to work with Arnold, and he felt that Mr. Freeze should look as if he's been made out of a glacier.
Because, of course, the character of Mr. Freeze does not require a good actor to pull off that performance at all. Because he's a one-dimensional character as Mr. Freeze.
We will get onto that and the tragedy of Mr. Freeze, especially the last scene. You know my thoughts on this, Dave. But we'll get onto that in a bit. Val Kilmer didn't really want to do another Batman film. He didn't want to work with Joel Schumacher, so he didn't. His excuse was that he wanted to work on the island of Dr. Moreau because Brando was working on it. And actually, I do like that film. It's batshit mental. If you've never seen it, go watch it. And he was doing The Saint as well, because that was worth it. That's a terrible fucking film. There's only one Saint, and that's Ian Ogilvy. Not even Roger Moore.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though, but wasn't Val Kilmer a bit of a prick?
Absolutely. Well, I think they just butted heads at the end of the day. Yeah. I think it was just, he's particular to work with, apparently. But hey, look, he's coming back for Top Gun 2, so that's something. We'll see the Iceman again. The Iceman cometh. And they got George Clooney in to replace Val Kilmer because George Clooney was insanely a hot property at that point.
Yep.
He'd done ER. He was working on ER at the time, and he was just about to do From Dusk Till Dawn, which was the film that really made him a mega star, I feel. And I think we've talked about this before, that he made loads of films at that time that Amy likes. I'm sure it was you.
What else did he do at that time? I'm a fan of Clooney. I think he's a very, very good writer, director, actor.
Was it you who did when I did about the ad break, The Peacemaker, and you told me off because you said it was a good film?
No, that wasn't me, I don't think.
I must have been so. There's so many people who flag me off on my own show. But anyway, could have been Jenny. But yes, so George Clooney was a massively hot property. Chris O'Donnell stayed as Robin. Michael Gough stayed as Alfred. And Alicia Silverstone came in as Batgirl. Oh, Uma Thurman. She's the most tragic figure in this film.
Well, not Bane.
No, because, do you know what? Bane was only as good as the guy who was portraying him, and Jeep the wrestler wasn't an actor, was he? So, Jeep's fencing. So, Bane was hot and they didn't know how to handle him. That should have been Solomon Grundy.
Yeah. It would have made sense. The guy in the swamp brought back by Poison Ivy. But no, they took one of Batman's smartest, most calculating villains and made him into a grunting muscle man who was stupid. It was...
They said, monkey business.
Yeah, God.
Can we accept the fact that, we're probably never going to get the Bane that we ever want in a live-action movie?
Well, Tom Hardy? What's the matter with you?
Well, because he's not the Bane that I want. He was the muscle. Turned out he wasn't the mastermind behind the whole thing.
Yep.
That's true.
And I'm sorry, but until I see some venom going into the back of somebody's skull and him literally turning into 3 times the size of a normal human being, I'm never going to be satisfied. And
you're never going to see that in a film, Dave.
And I just want a proper lucha libre mask. What, am I asking too much? I asked thee.
What we need is a big version of Rey Mysterio.
Just Rey Mysterio turning into bulking out into Braun Strowman or something like that.
I'm down with that. That suit should be Braun Strowman.
That would work.
He can do it. He's big enough.
Yeah, but Solomon Grundy is such a good shout as a replacement.
That's basically who he is.
Yeah, because they throw Woodrow in there. Played by
John Glover.
Yes, who would go on to play Lionel Luthor in Smallville.
The excellent John Glover.
Yes, absolutely. And it just all would tie in very, very nicely. But I guess it was the fact that at the time, Bane was the new hot property villain. I mean, even though it was a couple of years. Well, actually, hold on a second. Let's try and figure this out.
When did Nightfall come out?
Early 90s?
Nightfall...
93?
Death of Superman was 93. Nightfall was the year 94. After, so it would have been 94.
Yeah, so it would have been the hot property, wouldn't it?
But it went on. I mean, you had Nightfall, Night Quest, Night's End. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine that story, even though Bane basically is out of it by the end of Nightfall, would have either still been going on or just wrapping up the whole arc. So, yeah, it probably would have been a fresh thing. And I guess when they're looking at cashing in on toys, they're like, there's this new character, all these comic book fans will make these toys, and sure, whatever. But...
I mean, yeah, obviously we've got to understand that this is at the point before movie studios had any kind of respect for comic book fans. Or any kind of respect for the source material, more importantly. They didn't have any respect for the source material at this point. They just thought, it's just the Adam West thing, isn't it? People really had to fight to get things. As we've just mentioned with Joel Schumacher, really wanted those bits in Batman Forever and just got completely overruled by the studio because, it's not interesting, is it? Normal people won't understand. Well, they will if you tell a story, lads. That's how it works. So, they thought, Poison Ivy, she just wants to basically shag everything. Or use her feminine wild because all women are evil, which is basically what they're saying with Poison Ivy. She's a femme fatale, lads. When in fact what she actually was, and I still can't quite believe this, actually got Uma Thurman, number 1, to act really badly. And number 2, she's basically a drag act when she's Poison Ivy. She's basically Paul O'Grady. She's really savage.
He would have done better, I think.
Really? That'd have been amazing, wouldn't it? Next time they do it, she'll get RuPaul. I'd be down with that.
Could you imagine the internet fan rage?
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
That's why they should do it. That's why I keep saying the next Batman should be Idris Elba. Just to wind people up.
You can get
Anam Chowdhury. Actually, do you know what? Elba wouldn't actually be a bad show.
Yeah,
if you could do it.
Yes, he would.
Yeah, it'd be all right as long as he wouldn't do it as fucking Cockney like he normally does. But
I am sorry, but I can't get aboard this Idris Elba bandwagon. I've never seen a single movie where I've thought he was anything more than boring. Like,
if you're going to get someone like that, it's Chiwetel Ejiofor. That's who you want.
I have no idea who that is.
He is Doctor Strange, Mordo.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
He's excellent in everything he does. So he would be very good. But sadly, at this point, we've got George Clooney, who, with the best will in the world, I do love him, but he's shit at Batman.
Yeah,
he's okay as Bruce. His Bruce is fine.
Oh yeah, absolutely agree, 100%, Amy. But Batman, hey, Freeze, I'm Batman. Oh god.
Yeah.
His opening line, for fuck's sake, is, and this is why Superman works alone. Oh. For fuck's sake.
No, it's not. It's because Superman's got the powers of a god and you're a man running around in a bat costume.
And besides which, he doesn't work alone, you fucking idiot. He works with Jimmy Olsen 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, well, that's true. Or Supergirl. Yeah. Or his dog.
Supergirl. Or Lois.
Exactly.
Or Superboy. Power Girl.
Or
Steel.
The monkey.
Just keep them rolling.
The chimp.
Yeah.
The other exactly. Superman.
Exactly. Every other Superman there's ever been, including Barack Obama Superman.
Yeah. Basically, he's never worked alone.
Never ever worked alone.
No.
Never.
That's it.
But it sounded funny. Ha ha.
Yeah. Well,
along with bat nipples.
Yeah, well, of course, that's his opening line. But let's not forget that the opening line of Batman Forever is "I'll get drive-through."
I don't know.
Oh god. Yeah,
that was quite funny. Yeah, so I mean, the setup is that Batman and Robin have been together a couple of years now, and they're going around fighting crime, and it's all very much like. I won't go as far to say the Adam West TV show. I would go as far to say probably the 3rd season of The Batman. It's sort of that kind of setup now. Alfred, turns out he's in a lot of pain. We're not told why just yet. But it turns out he does have a disease called McGregor syndrome, which I'm guessing is named after the producer Peter McGregor Scott. I'm guessing. Which also happens to be what Mr. Freeze's wife has. Interesting. That will come up later on in the film, I'm sure.
Completely unconnected, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. I will admit, the bits with Alfred and Bruce on their own are really, really good. I think they're some of the best bits of the film. Because Michael Gough, by this point, has played Alfred in 4 films.
Mm-hmm.
I would say has a handle on the character. And really sort of understands what his role is, what his function is. And Clooney seems to immediately get it as well. Because he plays Bruce Wayne really, really well in these parts. And they are quite sad. Especially when he finds out that he is ill. And he's basically losing his father all over again. And they kind of do play it pretty straight. Whereas the whole film is comic relief. These bits are sort of the respite from the comic relief.
Yeah, it's I think what makes this movie such a hard slug for me, because there's actually a story worthwhile telling in there, a story which, to my recollection, I can't really think of being done particularly well, which is the death of Alfred. Normally whenever Alfred dies in comic books, whether it be The Dark Knight Returns or whether it be in Injustice or whatever it may be, it's usually he goes out completing the mission or whatever it is. Whereas this one, it's a different take altogether because it's a slow, agonizing death. And it would have been interesting to have seen that story. But unfortunately, it is a camp Batman film, in which case he not only is he not going to die, but at some point during his chronic illness, he's going to find the time to create not 1, but 2 Batgirl costumes.
Yes. And lay a breadcrumb trail that is insultingly easy.
So
with a protected password of 3 letters.
So far, Michael Gough has let Vicky Vale into the Batcave.
Yeah, sacked.
He's then. Well, actually, no. Selina Kyle and Bruce Wayne figured it out themselves. So he redeemed himself in Batman Returns. Then rocks on Batman Forever, and he lets the Riddler and Riddler and Two-Face into the house. Well, they knock him out.
And Robin.
Yeah, and Robin.
Encourages Robin.
Yeah, Robin finds the Batcave because of Alfred's indiscretions. I just don't understand why Bruce keeps this man around. When he was lying on that bed, he should have just put the pillow over his face and sorted the problem out.
Just kept pressing until the struggling stopped.
Exactly. He was old, feeble at the time. I don't think there would have been much struggle involved.
Probably not.
And Clooney played a doctor. He knows how to make it look natural.
Exactly, just air bubble into the vein.
Oh, Bruce, what have you done? I am now the Batman.
Plus, Gough was the old twat who sold the Doctor out to Omega in Arc of Infinity. In the worst bad guy setup ever. Oh yes, it's clearly Michael Gough's voice. You'll need to watch Arc of Infinity to understand that one. But all the Doctor Who fans just punch the air. But like I say, I mean, the bits with him and Alfred are some of the best bits of the film. The bits with him and Robin, not so much. I mean, Chris O'Donnell and Val Kilmer had a certain amount of chemistry on screen.
Yeah, I liked them together. Because I rewatched Forever as well to sort of refresh myself with that. And yeah, I really like Chris O'Donnell as Robin. I think for an older version of Robin, he's pretty good. And he was much better with Val than he was with George, definitely.
Mm.
I think it's because he had a bit of edge to him in the first one.
Yeah.
In Forever, there was a bit of edge to Robin, wasn't there? He was a bit of a streetwise gypsy kid.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, he's just a horny teenager. He's not even a teenager, let's face it. He's about 26. And he's just this girl looked at me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what it is, the whole film. And it's just this petty jealousy. It's like, dude, it's Batman and Robin, not Robin and Batman. Oh, maybe I should just be Nightwing. Whatever.
Yeah. Like, if you want to go back and read, classic era Batman and Teen Titans and stuff like that and see the transition, it's not because he's sick of living under his shadow. It's because he's terrified of becoming the man who Bruce is. Like, it's just get it right, for goodness sakes. Like, Robin Dick Grayson is like one of my all-time favorite characters. Like,
yeah,
just hands down. It's not just the fact that he was the first ever sidekick. Like, he is an important part of comic book history. Batman Forever treats him with a certain level of respect. It's like, this is a kid who has just watched his entire family just get murdered in front of him. And, there is no Alfred. There is no millions of dollars waiting for him. And so he's basically scooped up by this guy who's racked with guilt. Batman doesn't care that he's taking this kid in. He's guilty at the fact that the crowd was shouting too loud to tell Two-Face that he was Batman. There's a story there. Whereas in this one, it's just, I want the girl because she's pretty. Go on. Whatever, Dick.
At this point, it's not so much Dick Grayson as Jason Todd, I feel.
Mm.
Yeah.
Who would have been Robin at this point? It would have been Tim, wouldn't it?
Yeah, would have been Tim by this point.
So Todd's been killed. So I don't know, I get the feeling that whoever was writing it might have thought of Jason Todd and put a bit of influence in there. I don't know. But anyway, it's like, I would never ever have seen Dick Grayson as I want to be Batman. I'm the senior partner in it. No, it's just ridiculous.
I suppose, obviously, the argument is that Poison Ivy is manipulating them with her pheromones and stuff.
Because that's a power she has.
Yeah, well, like, to what end? It really is just. It's silly. Like, the whole thing. Whenever they put the costumes on, it's silly, and there's people talk about how it's harkening back to the 1960s and things like that. It really isn't. Like, the 1960s camp Batman worked because the whole thing was camp. from beginning to end. It was all done in that one style, and that's what made it good.
Do you think as well? I think one of the things that I feel about it's trying to be influenced by the camp of the 60s TV series. I think it's trying to hark back to that. But I think the problem is, the reason it doesn't work like that is that it's too knowing. And the part that everybody sort of uses as that, as Nostalgia Critic used to great effect, was the back credit card. That just sort of said it was too knowing, whereas the Batman TV series worked primarily because they played it that they weren't in on the joke. To them, it wasn't ridiculous. Yeah,
and I think there is definitely that, like, there is the disconnect, because the 60s world is a world where Batman and Robin can crash a helicopter into the middle of the city and just sprint off, because time wastes for 9 or whatever it was. But I think the other problem is, and I think it's perhaps the fact that at least the Batman comics that were being published in the 1960s, because of everything that had gone on with the Comics Code Authority and all of that stuff, at least had that level of simplicity to them, where...
Well, they had to, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. And so... Batman did become a lot more camp, and certainly in the mid to late 70s, obviously that all changed. But at least the comic books, the source material, and Batman, they kind of work together. Whereas in the 90s, I mean, we were moving into... We'd already had the 80s Batman stories, and you could argue that the first Batman movies were good adaptations of the darker Batman and stuff like that. But we were moving into an era of Batman which just became, one classic event after another, after another, after another for the next 10 years.
More importantly, we'd had the animated series as well.
The animated series, was still rocking. I don't know. I just don't understand where people got this idea from.
Money. It's as simple as that. There is no mystery. They wanted a massive toy commercial because they made a lot of money with Forever, and they saw more opportunities to make more money, and it was just basic, pure greed. And it turned out that's not really what people wanted. They didn't want the massive toy. Kids especially didn't want the massive toy commercial. But it plays out pretty much the same as the first film. There was a video review I was watching earlier about it, and the actual movie beats are all the same. So if you can actually compare a lot of the events to Batman and Robin to Batman Forever, they're just trying to repeat the formula, and it just doesn't work because it's lazy and it's sloppy, and the characterizations were too far removed. For instance, Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy in the comics is this femme fatale, but she's dangerous and she's got a clear agenda on what she wants to do. Isley herself is played too much for laughs. You've got Dowdy Pamela Isley, who crashes the press conference, and then you've got, like I said, basically a drag act. Or a Mae West version of Poison Ivy, who she doesn't have an agenda throughout most of the film.
No. Until
the actual plan that, tell you what, Freeze, you freeze the planet, and then I'll populate it with plants, because that's how that works. What? What? I will never blame Arnie for being Arnie. He was hired to be Arnie.
Yeah, he came in and did the job they asked him to.
Yeah, they wrote loads of puns for Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he said, fair enough, and did his job. Uma Thurman should have said, I'm not playing this, it's shit. Plus, I get my ass kicked by Alicia Silverstone. Nobody wants that.
Shall we talk about the abysmal, horrendous thing that is Barbara Gordon? Well, it's not Barbara Gordon anymore, is it?
It's not Barbara Gordon. Go on, Amy. I'll let you take this one.
it would be one thing if they tried to do a good Batgirl and messed it up some way, because, you know, fair enough, you tried your best, but it's just like, we need a female character called Batgirl, what should we do? And they just made it up as they went along, and it's so stupid, because Barbara Gordon is phenomenal. I love her. She's one of the best characters in the DC universe. You know, her origin of becoming Batgirl and going out and doing that on her own and wanting to sort of step up because she's been inspired by Batman was brilliant. And then her time as Oracle, I still think is the best thing they did with her. And I'm kind of annoyed that they've undone that, because at the end of the day, I think she's done more good as Oracle than Batgirl, but it's still a great character. And in this, they're just like, it can be just this random bird. There you go. Stick a cow on her. That'll do. And it's like, I'd rather them not even tried than do what they did.
Amy, I think you and I are going to be very, very good friends. Because until they stick Barbara Gordon back in a wheelchair, I'm never going to be happy. I'm sorry. I know that sounds horrible, but...
That's
because it's an important thing. It's like, she's one of the most visible disabled characters around, not just in comics, but at all. And, you know, look at... If a big event goes down now and they call the heroes in, Batgirl's going to be there helping fight, big whoop. But before they gave her legs back, when the shit went down, like in Infinite Crisis, when they lost John, how did they get all the heroes together? Oracle did it. She got everyone together. She rallied the troops, and she did it in Final Crisis. And she did it so, you know, she's so much more important as a character, and for representing that people with disabilities aren't minor characters on the side who are defined by the disability. They're as important as anyone else and can do amazing things, and she was a great showcase for that. And I think DC have really fucked up. It's one of the worst things they did with the New 52 for me.
Yeah.
I think that was basically, I just think they were pandering to people who were having a go and just say, oh, she's just disabled. And I don't think it was the right way to go. They should have maybe stuck to the guns a bit more and said, no, she's this way for a reason.
Yeah.
She, you know, there is method to the madness. Stick with it instead of just saying, "Oh no, we better change it."
There's also there's to me as well, like just while we're talking about Barbara Gordon, because I could talk about Barbara Gordon for hours. But there's something to be said about the notion of living in a universe where magic and science are basically as interchangeable as one another, and yet you have somebody who remains in a wheelchair despite the fact that, you know, a quick conversation with Zatanna would solve the problem, but it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? And you could say that's just plot contrivance and stuff like that, but it's part of who she is. Like, and it's the fact that, you know, she's got an eidetic memory. Like, she's one of the most intelligent characters in the DC universe. You know, the stuff with Birds of Prey that Chuck Dixon did, and then on to Gail Simone, was outstanding. And again, there's another perfect indication of, you know, Barbara Gordon, Oracle bringing people together. Like, she is like the linchpin in a lot of ways of the DC universe. And then to undermine all of that by not only putting her in this movie and not even having her be the daughter of Police Commissioner Gordon.
To be fair, though, the Gordon of the movies is a very different Gordon to anything we've got before. He is, well, he's not even akin to Commissioner. He's dog shit. He's dog shit. Also dog shit.
Yeah.
They could call him Random Officer Number 3, and it would make any difference to his character.
Oh, he's even more ineffectual than Commissioner Gordon in the TV series. He is more like Chief O'Hara, if he's anybody. And in fact, Chief O'Hara is better than him.
Yes.
But, the backstory... Big Aura. I'll be putting the Joker behind bars soon enough. Not good. Yeah. But yeah, the backstory they give her is utter dog shit. She is Alfred's niece, great niece, or whatever it is. Her parents died in a car crash. That's her big tragedy. And yes, that's pretty much it. And she's played by, again, this is always a danger when they get someone who has been in a film that was popular. Because Alicia Silverstone had been in Clueless, which had been popular. However, she didn't get famous in Clueless in quite the same way that her co-stars did. For instance, one of the co-stars was Paul Rudd. Mm-hmm. Another one was Donald Faison. And the other one, who was still doing better than Alicia Silverstone, was that girl who is a massive Trump supporter and wants to be in Congress. I think she does. She's mental.
And yet she's still doing better than Alicia Silverstone.
Still doing better than Alicia Silverstone, yeah. And it was this film that killed her career off, basically, because it just proved that in Clueless you can get away with being an airhead and not being able to act. When you actually call on to act, it turns out, oh, you just can't act. Then that's basically what happened. I'll tell you something. Iggy Azalea in the video to Fancy did a better job of playing Alicia Silverstone's character in Clueless than Alicia Silverstone did. That's how bad Alicia Silverstone is.
She doesn't even do well in the action scenes and being a good fighter. It's like
Coolio outdoes her.
Another big thing I'm a fan of is Power Rangers. I think it's a great, fun, silly franchise, but even the actors in that who are shit actors but get hired because they can do wicked flips and stuff, any one of them would have made a better Batgirl than she is because she can't do the acting or the fighting. She's crap.
So when she does the first position, so with her putting her dukes up, she looks terrible. I could do better than that. Come on now.
Yeah, Bane should have just got behind her and ripped her in half, and then we could have had Barbara Gordon instead.
Do you think it was kind of like they were sitting around in a meeting and they were thinking to themselves, right, okay, we need to put a bad guy in here. Catwoman was a success in the last one, so we should put another female villain in. Ah, yes, but this one's for kids, so we can't have Batman punching her off a building anymore. So we need to put a woman. We need to put a woman in here, like to fight Uma Thurman. And it's just like.
Yeah, guaranteed that's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
Men punching women, no, but women punching women is fine. So
You want an electric gremlin? That's in the film.
It's just
for anyone who knows what I'm referencing there.
So what we've got here then is we've got a Batman film with a bad Batman, a bad Robin.
No, good Robin, but he's just acting like a twat.
Well, he's a good Robin in the last film, but he's a shit faux red caped Nightwing in this one.
Yeah. Like, what are you wearing as well? Is it the Nightwing costume or is it a Robin costume? Like, make your mind up.
It's definitely the in between stage that in the comics he drew up a design and went, no, that's shit. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. It was like when everybody lost their stuff when the New 52 launched and they changed the Nightwing emblem from blue to red, and it was like they've literally just hocked this from Batman and Robin. Why change it? Why?
Yeah,
because difference, fresh, new,
why
exciting.
Alter his iconic look, and also why remind people of Batman and Robin?
Yeah, yeah, because the New 52 had to be different, didn't it?
Oh yeah, how they turned around and said, "We've completely radically redesigned Beast Boy. He is red now." It's like, now you're just taking the piss. Fuck off.
Superman doesn't have pants no more.
No, he didn't. Because he had Kryptonian battle armor because Superman.
Yeah, because he needs it. Superman needs armor.
Well, yeah, but wasn't it because he had fought Doomsday, or had he fought Doomsday? Maybe he had died, or maybe he hadn't died, or whatever.
No, it's because Wonder Woman was a complete horn dog and he needed a barrier, basically.
Yeah.
And see, I like their two alternatives for Superman when New 52 launched, where it was, here he is in his Kryptonian armor and all that, and then Grant Morrison's like, jeans and t-shirt. It's like they went both extremes and failed with both of them.
Of course they did. Yeah. Of course they did.
And then a few years later, Dan Jurgens comes knocking on everybody's door and goes, guess what? The actual Superman's still knocking about.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like-
let's kill this dipshit and give people what they want.
yeah. And how?
Which is what they should have done to everyone in this film.
Oh, yeah. Well, shall we talk about Mr. Freeze then? Like,
Well, yes,
Yeah.
because do you know what? I quite like this Mr. Freeze because I like Arnie. Anything Arnie's involved in, I'm a big fan of because I like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That's the thing. He's not Mr. Freeze, but he's
No.
an Arnie Mr. Freeze, which is brilliant.
He's very entertaining, yeah.
now,
And the puns, people moan about the puns. I love the puns.
Oh, I love a good bad pun. They're brilliant.
Except the only one which is completely factually inaccurate. The dinosaurs were not killed by the Ice Age. What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
well, there is one argument, I suppose, to be made against Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze, though, is that if it hadn't been for Batman the Animated Series like a year or two prior, redefining what Mr. Freeze would be for basically the rest of time, because I don't care how much Scott Snyder tried to ruin it. Like, the quintessential Mr. Freeze is the Mr. Freeze that was created for Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, it's Michael Ansari's Mr. Freeze.
Exactly. And
Just like the Joker is heavily influenced by Mark Hamill's performance, Michael Ansari's performance of Mr. Freeze is the definitive Mr. Freeze.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if you look at that, and then you go, right, we're going to use that Mr. Freeze in our movie. His wife is dying. He's cryogenically frozen her. And he's doing this all out of the love of his wife. And we have two choices. Patrick Stewart or Arnold Schwarzenegger. And at that point, as good as Schwarzenegger may be, and as good as top billing he might have on that poster, he is just another one in the long list of bad decisions that was made in this movie.
I am going to counter that and say the bits where he was sad about his wife weren't that bad. He put in a performance in those bits, and I felt for the guy.
He's alright. Arnie can do serious and sad really well.
Yeah, it's just all the rest of it, all the puns. But again, I found the puns quite entertaining. But when called upon to get sad about Nora, he got sad. That bit where he thinks that Nora's dead and he has that tear fall down, that's quite sad. Or the bit where he's in his cell looking at the ice sculpture of Nora in the music box. That's not bad. I've seen worse performances than that.
That's damning with feigned praise, though, Glenn.
No,
It's
all
not
right then.
bad.
I'll come out. I'll say it. I thought he was pretty good in it. I thought it was sad when that happened.
But
And
imagine that
go
with
on.
Patrick Stewart.
Oh, absolutely. But Patrick Stewart, number one, was doing the Star Trek films at this point, which generations. Blah.
Well, at least we got First
Plus-
Contact out of them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the only decent one out of the whole lot, though.
Yep.
The rest of bullshit, utter dog shit. If he'd done Mr. Freeze, we would not have had Professor X. And I'm sorry, I don't want to live in a world where that performance is.
Yeah.
It's true.
He is the
Either him or
perfect Professor
McAvoy.
X, yeah.
Him or McAvoy, because McAvoy's brilliant as well.
So basically, I think we've come to a realization here, which is that every single thing about this movie that we really enjoy has to do with superheroes outside of superhero costumes.
Yeah.
Take away the costumes and take away the superhero-ness of it, and suddenly this superhero movie becomes okay.
Yeah. The worst thing I would say about Batman and Robin is that it's boring. There's a lot of nothing that happens in between the good bits. If you understand that it is basically one big toy commercial, if you understand that it was just marketing overdrive, if you understand that they didn't get the source material, it's not a bad film, objectively. It's just boring. And that is probably the worst thing a film can be. I recently saw The Meg a few months back, and that is a terrible film.
Yeah.
But I'll give you this, it's bloody entertaining.
Yeah.
It's really entertaining. You don't notice the time going by, whereas with Batman and Robin, you do notice time. Superman 4, Awful film. Utterly dreadful. I don't notice the time going by because it's entertaining. Where Superman 3, I really do. So, I hate... Superman 3 is far worse film than Superman 4. I think we said that when we did the commentaries.
Oh, God, yeah. Superman 4 is a better film than Superman 3.
But, yeah, Batman and Robin, it's not as bad as people make out. And, like I say, the whole tragedy of it is that in the last scene that Mr. Freeze is in, you get a glimpse of maybe the way Arnie should have been playing it all along. When Poison Ivy gets put back in Arkham, I'm your new cellmate. All that, finally winter has come. And that those speech, thinking, Jesus, he's really threatening and really terrifying. And imagine if he'd been able to play it like that the whole movie. How good it would have been.
I want to see the sequel. I want to find out what Freeze did to Poison Ivy.
He fucked her up, man. That's what he did.
Yeah.
He just kept freezing and unfreezing her. I reckon.
Yeah. That would not have ended well for Poison Ivy.
She deserved it, to be fair. She wasn't a very nice person.
No, that's true. That's true, I suppose.
See, I did also... Oh, sorry, go on, Amy.
No, I was just going to say, as much as you were saying the studio interfered with Batman Forever, I think if Batman and Robin had been a bit more like Batman Forever and had that mix of the campiness and the darker tones to it, Batman and Robin could have been such a better movie if they'd have just dialed down the stupid campiness a bit. Even with these cast and everything, it could have been a lot better.
Because I am of the opinion that not every Batman film has to be a dark depresso fest. I understand that the Nolan films were the way they were crime dramas, and they were brilliant, don't get me wrong, they were great. I think we may be ready for sort of a return to the Brave and the Bold, because the Brave and the Bold was a fantastic series. It's really well regarded, and yet it was a lighter in tone Batman series.
Well, the two animated movies that they just recently put out with Adam West's last two performances, they were brilliant. Yeah,
they were.
And I mean, granted, they were definitely, based on that 1960s Batman fare, but it because they were animation and things like that, they were allowed to push the boat further than the TV ever could.
Absolutely.
And
it worked.
It did. Lego Batman. I mean,
yeah.
And
that was a fantastic Batman film with an actual message in it as well.
Yeah. He's a completely malleable character. You can have a funny Batman. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's not even
That's how you do it, though.
Not even on the big screen. It's just that this is an objectively bad Batman.
Because there was just too many cooks spoiling the broth, basically. And there was too much studio interference. It was too reliant on the fact that it was a marketing exercise rather than a movie. Especially the end bit with the Bat snowmobile and the Bat bike and the Bat skater. And it's like, this is now a toy commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that was kind of undermined by the bit where Batman gives a whole speech to Freeze about using his talents for good. That was quite a good speech. Clooney did quite well. Credit where credit's due and all that. But yeah, it just I don't know. It just I want to like it more than I do, but it isn't a good film. There's the seeds of a good film in there.
I think if you get together with a few friends who have seen it before, know it's bad, and you can just sit there and take the piss out of the film and have a laugh with it, it's great for that, for getting together with your mates. Because I've done that before with my old housemate and a friend of ours who's really into Batman, and we just sit there and laugh through the film and quote Arnie and make each other chuckle, and it's brilliant for that kind of experience. But if you want to sit down and watch Batman, it's not.
Yeah. No. Even though I went to the cinema 4 times to see it.
Yeah,
I had nothing else to do.
Just because it's the 4th one doesn't mean you have to do it 4 times. You know that, right?
Shut up, Amy.
Well, if we're talking about cinemas, Batman Forever is the one film I've seen the most at the cinema.
I think I went to see it. Well, it was out at the same time as Judge Dredd, another much maligned film that I really don't mind. I really think it's quite a good film. It's a Sylvester Stallone action film at the end of the day.
It's not a great Judge Dredd film, but it's a fun Stallone film, definitely.
We finally got our Judge Dredd film when Carl Urban did it.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic. But the Sly version isn't bad at all. So I sort of saw that 5 times and saw Batman Forever 5 times. Batman Forever is a very enjoyable film. We will talk about that in depth at some point. But then again, I don't... Look, I'll watch anything with Batman slapped on it at the end of the day. It's very, except maybe Beware the Batman's maybe out of it because that was shit. But, you know, if Batman's in it or Batman's sort of associated with it, I'll probably give it a whirl. And I will watch Batman. Like you say, Batman and Robin is a great film to watch when you just want to laugh. So, yeah, there you go.
And then 8 years later, we would get, like, the next generation's defining Batman. So
that's the weird thing, isn't it? It's objectively, it's been longer since the first Iron Man film to now than Batman and Robin and Batman Begins.
Yeah.
That's weird. That's weird to me, that is.
Yeah, it's because you're getting older.
Yeah, well, it is that. But it felt like a long time between Batman and Robin and Batman Begins. And tonally, it's a million miles apart from it, isn't it? So,
yeah.
But like I said, we will get around to that, I'm sure, at some point.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Well, that was Batman and Robin. I would suggest, if you are listening to this and you've never watched Batman and Robin, definitely watch it. It's give it a watch, but just realise that it's not, number one, a good film, and number two, just I don't like using the term switch your brain off because I never think that you should switch your brain off with any entertainment particularly, but in this case, kind of just realise where it comes from and that it is just one big toy commercial and then just enjoy it for that. It's basically your Saturday morning cartoon writ large.
If you smoke weed and no friends you do, get together and watch this while smoking weed. You'll love it.
Yeah. And just marvel at how somebody could actually take Uma Thurman, of all people, and make her completely sexless.
While desperately trying to make her sexy.
And render a character that is supposed to be full of sex appeal. And that's not being misogynistic. That's Poison Ivy's gig. That's her whole deal. Is she's a femme fatale. And make him turn her into something that isn't a femme fatale at all. Even at the end. Although I do like the way that she turns, her costume's pretty simple to start with, and by the end, as she gets more megalomaniacal, it is completely just riots of colour at the end. Basically, she turns into Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors. But there you go. But yeah, watch it, give it a whirl. Let us know what you think. I'm very, very interested to know. Or if you have seen it, or it's been a long time since you've seen it, why won't you watch it again? I think I know the answer why, but why won't you watch it again? Or if you like it, tell us why you like it. I know Jenny loves it. It's Jenny's favourite Batman film.
Oh dear.
Of all time. She was it's because it reminds her of the Adam West TV series. That was the Batman she grew up with. That's the Batman she knows. And she's not into dark Batman. She likes bright night Batman. And so this is bright night Batman at the end of the day. Admittedly for very different reasons, and it doesn't quite work, but if that's your Batman, if that's your gig, then obviously you're going to like Batman and Robin, and that's perfectly okay. I think there's enough room for everybody to like all these films. If you like it, you like it, I must admit, I do want the toys. I want all the toys because I am not one of these people, Batman should only ever dress in black and that's it. I want Neon Wings Batman. Thank you very much. I want Blast Attack Batman. I want Polar Ice Batman. I love that shit. It's amazingly crap. I want all the toys because they're all amazing. I remember the Batman Returns toys were just the DC superheroes toys. So the Penguin wasn't Danny DeVito Penguin. It was just normal Penguin.
Yeah, he looked nothing like the film.
I love that shit. I think that's it. There wasn't a Max Schreck toy because there wasn't a Max Schreck figure in the DC superheroes line.
I remember I had a Bane toy out of Batman and Robin, and it was weird because the venom had leaked down his arm and turned into like this weird blade thing. Because,
Yeah.
Bane.
Yeah, Bane Blade.
Yeah. Go figure.
Weird.
So,
but they were all new toys though, so that sort of doesn't count.
No. Yeah. But
yeah, they obviously they weren't recycled toys. They actually made. But again, they did it for Batman Begins, and they did it for The Dark Knight, and they did it for Strikes Back and all that kind of stuff as well. They made all these. They weren't as good. They were really rubbish, but they did do like Polar Attack Batman and like you know that bit in the third film where he attacked Bane in the North Pole. Remember that bit, right? Of course.
See, the one thing they did with the newer film toys, which I thought was really cool, though, they went to the effort of, for like the first 6 months or the first year, they marketed the Ra's al Ghul figure not as Liam Neeson.
Yeah,
they used
didn't they?
Yeah, and they labelled all the Liam Neeson toys as Ducard, and then after a while they just named him properly. It's like, no, this is Ra's. They actually didn't ruin the film, which toys quite often do nowadays.
Well, they did that with Rey in Star Wars, didn't they? So spoiled the fact that she would get the lightsaber in the end.
Yeah. You know what it is?
I did see a whole set of those where she didn't. They actually they waited, but they didn't wait very long. They only waited a couple of months, which I think if they'd have held off until like a year, it probably would have been better.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
I mean, just while we're talking about that, I mean, that was an amazing plot twist. Something that deserved that kind of level of detail to it and things like that. I remember specifically being blown away by the revelation that it was actually him, only because of the fact that I thought Ken Watanabe as Ra's al Ghul would have been
genius,
the best casting in the world ever.
Yeah, genius. He's awesome.
Coming off The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise, I was like, yes, give me Ken Watanabe as Ra's al Ghul. But then it turned out it was Liam Neeson, who also was a pretty damn good Ra's al Ghul.
Oh, yeah. And then Marion Cotillard.
It never occurred to me that during the film, it's like, his goatee kind of has the same colouring as Raish's beard, and it's like I never twigged as like this is going to be a fake out. It was, very well done.
It turns out that Ra's al Ghul doesn't exist either. He was Brian Mills all along.
He does have a particular set of skills.
He does have a particular set of skills.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff. We shall leave it there, otherwise we'll be talking about Batman, the Nolan trilogy all night, and we'll leave that for another episode. We will leave that for another episode. But Dave, Amy, pleasure as always having you on. Dave, if somebody wanted to find you on the old wide world of the interwebs, how's the best way to go about that? Or would you rather they didn't?
No, I'm on the Twitter. The thing that's the Twitter. I actually
cesspool that is Twitter.
Yeah, I don't actually know what I am on Twitter, like at Kal-El Prime or something like that. I don't know.
I think it is at Kal-El Prime.
Yeah, something like that. I post infrequently, so don't be too excited about it. But generally speaking, if I am going to post something, it's usually got to do with something I'm reading. So.
Or figures, buying
figures. Or figures, yeah, I know. I've just gone down a really dark rabbit hole of buying single issue slabbed DC comics of classic Batman issues, and in fact, as a matter of fact, just while we're talking, I might have spent an inordinate amount of money, but I've just gotten a first appearance Barbara Gordon.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
ooh, nice.
I blame Amy. If Grace has a go at you, just say it's Amy's fault.
I haven't quite told the wife I've bought it yet. So
no. Everybody... When you do, when you do, and when she inevitably shouts at you, just say, "Oh, it's Amy Walker's fault."
Who's Amy Walker? Well, let me tell you.
Let me tell you the tale of Amy Walker.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter, so you can have a look there, I guess.
Excellent stuff. Amy.
Yes.
Go on then. How do we get in touch with you? Or what have you got to promote? Because I'm sure you do.
Yeah, well, again, I'm on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at amazing_Amy_W. I've also got a podcast that I'm sure the listeners have heard me promote before, Eccentric Earth. It's a history podcast where I get guests on every week to talk about a completely random, unknown topic to them, and it's a good bit of fun. And Glenn, you've been on it yourself, and I'm sure I can get Dave on it as well. And yeah, it's worth checking out because you never know what's going to be on it. So.
Oh, I'm totally up for walking into the lion's den. Yep.
Tis good. And Set the Tape as well.
Yes, yeah. Doing a bit of work with them and getting a lot of book reviews at the minute, and currently reading the novel of Harley Quinn, Mad Love.
Nice.
So by the time this is up, that review will probably be out. So yeah, if you like your Batman, go look, see what I think of that, because so far I think it's a really good book. So check that out.
Excellent stuff. Brilliant. And if you want to find me, it's on Twitter at Cymru Nerd Cave. If you want to find me on Facebook, it's Glenn Jakeman. Please do send me a message before you try and add me, otherwise I probably won't add you. If you want to find our Twitter, Justice for All is going to be twitter.com/JFA pod, so at JFA pod. And then facebook.com, Justice for All pod. Is also on Facebook. I haven't been putting much content up there, but I will start now that this is sort of a thing again. We've sort of kind of a relaunch, although it's 2 episodes of relaunch. Is that too soon? But anyway, as we're sort of getting on board again now, because it is Christmas and holidays are over and cold nights are in, and podcasting is something good to do on a cold winter night, I feel. Getting together with mates and talking about stuff.
And to be honest, 2 issues is about the right amount of time to relaunch a comic book in
for DC
2018. Yeah. And Marvel, let's not badger them.
No, but to be fair, a shiny new collector's issue, first ever issue, it'll be worth thousands in 30 years' time. It won't be. Like Beanie Babies, it'll be worth nothing. But there you go. Dave, Amy, like I say, pleasure having you on. You'll join us again, won't you, for the next one?
I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent stuff. I've got to work out what we'll be doing. I'm going to let Amy decide, actually, the next subject.
Ooh.
So she will go on off and have a think about that. And then after that one, Dave will have a go. So I'm sure we'll be talking about the whole history of everything.
I have chosen the subject DC Comics.
DC Comics.
1938 to now.
To present. Because that's Dave and that's how he rolls. His video reviews, I don't think, are up anymore, of Transformers, where he tried to go through the whole history of Transformers. And they were awesome, but they're still not his best ever video, and it's not up anymore. And I wish you had the footage, but I don't think you do. And it's Universe Galvatron. It's still a video ever on YouTube that's brought me the most pleasure of anyone.
You know what? I don't even remember it. Like,
that's the one where you got so angry.
I'm a much older, much more mature, much more chilled David these days.
I still think you get angry.
that was a particularly angry and raging toy. Yes.
Oh, it was lovely. It was like anger. It's like Jeremy Irons in Dungeons and Dragons. It really was. But there you go. Dave, Amy, say bye-bye to all the lovely people.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you later, guys. Bye-bye for now.